Two. Welcome back, everybody, to my Sunday night interview session. I am joined this week by the great Kim Enderlin, and thanks for joining me tonight.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Kim and I have been talking for the past couple of years about representation of women in comic books and kind of nerd culture and everything in general. So we're going to dive into that tonight. But I think the best place to start is, Kim, where did you get started when it came to comics?
It was actually kind of like a secret. So I grew up in the middle of nowhere, literal nowhere, 3 towns in my high school, and I graduated with the same 20 kids I started pre-K with. So very small. And I was reading comics like that already put you kind of behind the 8 ball with a very already small, tight-knit community. So I was over at one of my friends' house, one of my guy friends, and he had several runs of the X-Men that his parents would like pick up when they were in Boston. Because that's like the only place you could get comics that, or you'd have them like mailed to your house. That was expensive. So I would sneak sneak X-Men comics home and read them. And I would just devour them and then sneak them back for like the next chunk. And he went through like this big New Mutants thing, and that was my first real huge run. It was the Louise Simon. So to have had my first comic book really run of anything be written by such a strong feminist voice ruined a lot of other comics for me.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah, her voice comes through in a lot of the characters. It comes through in, she was very adamant that the characters, they're children. They're not sex objects, they're children. So their costumes and everything they wear, she wanted it to be light. You see Kitty, when she took a step down from X-Men to New Mutants, kind of be like the, I don't know, mini leader, kind of like the little ambassador pretty much from like the parent group.
Oh yeah.
You see her going to the mall, and all of them going to the mall and wearing bright colors, and they have run-ins with Boom Boom, who is like the quintessential Valley girl, like mall rat. She had the earrings and she had all the crazy neon styles, but it looked so good on her. But it was young and it was playful and it wasn't sexualized. That was my first experience with comics. So a lot of friends after that.
And I mean, that kind of set the bar high in terms of how you view characters and the stories. It was very different. And for a lot of reasons, that's why it ended up getting shelved after it did. The fanfare wasn't too huge on that. And it's kind of telling as to why, which is sad. It's funny you bring up New Mutants, though, because I actually, maybe like 15 years ago, I traded in some comic books and I swapped the tops on my long boxes and I accidentally traded in my entire New Mutants run. And so
you probably had like the original Demon Bear saga.
I did. I had all of it. I had every single issue, including first Deadpool was in there. So
that's
yes.
brutal.
So I actually just last week recompleted that set. So it's funny that you mentioned New Mutants, because it's been one that I've spent 15 years trying to complete pretty much. So
I've been talking myself out of buying that ginormous omnibus that just came out, like the $300 one.
Yeah.
All of them. But must say no. Okay. They're expensive comics. Even though I like to get every single variant of the ones I'm reading, somehow when you're only paying $3 or $4 a piece, not so bad. Even though you're doing it several times a week instead of just one and done.
Yeah.
Convince yourself.
Yeah, I actually, we were getting all the variants and stuff like that for Zoe, for Miss Marvel, and all that stuff. And then I was like, these trades and the omnibus is just so much cheaper, and she doesn't care about the issues, she cares about the story. So I was like, we're just gonna get them by the trade, collected issues, stuff like that. And so that's
I've been collecting a lot more trades since I had Emma.
Yeah.
Keep up with every single one. I had a full box for the longest time, and I'd maybe get down there once a month, and all of a sudden I like $50. I'm like, can I
Yep.
just buy everything in trade? I'll
Makes a
spend
lot
the
of sense.
$50, but I gotta stop with all of the variants. Like with Spider-Gwen, it became obsessive. I've got like 2 long boxes full of, and it was a short run, the original Spider-Gwen,
Hmm.
every single variant.
And it's funny that you say that because that's actually what Zoe's collecting now, and we're getting like just pummeled with issues. And she sees like, oh, I don't have this one, Dad, or I don't have cover B, and I'm like, where'd you learn to talk like this? And I realized that she learned it from Dad. So
You.
now, so you started with New Mutants. Well, you started with X-Men. You moved to New Mutants. What are some of the characters that really stood out to you from those arcs?
I love Magic, Ileana, Rasputin. Backstory, and she tried so hard to be happy, and it just didn't work out for her, and it was just so sad, but you wanted it so bad for her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. That was sad. I liked Kitty. Kitty always spoke her mind. Like before she was in New Mutants, she was obviously a big X-Men, and one of the first things I really read that struck me, she was talking at an anti-mutant rally, and she brought up the fact that she was Jewish, so that she was being discriminated against on 2 fronts, and what's the difference, and how are you people different than that? And she made all these amazing points. I don't know. She always stood up for herself, and she stood up for those around her regardless. I
And
don't know, that unrelenting kindness. I don't know. I'm a big softie for most people and causes anyways. So.
no, I think it's actually awesome because I remember the first comic book conversation we had was at Rhino's Comics, and you were telling me about Kitty Pryde and how much you love her, and it actually reminded me of how much I love that character because it's somebody I hadn't read in years, and you were just so passionate about how cool she was, and that was just it struck me
She's
as awesome.
so cool. She had the lingo. She could shop with the rest of them. She had great friendships with all of them. Like, and they were all like well, except for Ilyana. But like they were mostly platonic relationships with all the guys and girls and everyone else. Like they all had their crushes, but it was, I don't know. It wasn't necessarily the peacekeeper because she was really feisty, but
Yeah,
she had a lot of heart that kept a lot of them going together. Her little side stitches and talk.
that's so awesome. It's interesting because you mentioned the whole being counted out on 2 fronts and facing all of that backlash.
Yeah, and she's a girl, so technically 3.
Three
If you
fronts.
think about it, like.
And so she has that going on, and I've read in the past 5 or so years just people saying keep the politics out of comics, keep the politics out of comics. And it's like you clearly haven't read a comic book because that's what most of them are about, the politics.
How these artists are speaking to us about their feelings. And I mean, X-Men was created to be a platform to discuss politics. I mean, ever since X-Men was created, you've had that whole like the whole bigger society of normal people persecuting somebody who might be a threat, so they make them a threat. I mean, you see it throughout history, and it was a way for them to voice if this is still happening without pointing a finger directly at racism or a myriad of other ways that you can be prejudiced. They pointed at the mutant aspect, but it's supposed to mirror our society. Like, this is what you look like. See, this is how silly you look and how ignorant you look.
Yeah.
Without being like, you look silly and ignorant. Clearly, a lot of people didn't realize what they were reading.
Yeah, it's amazing because like that Claremont run, everything it addresses, and the people cite that as some of the best work. Yet they're like, keep politics out of it. I'm like, it's all been political since its inception. That's why it was created. But it just strikes me. So when you brought that up, that part just really.
It's not even just X-Men that's politically pushed. I mean, even when you cross sides over into DC, I mean, obviously Marvel has their big political animals pretty much. I mean, look at Captain America. He's all politics.
Yeah.
All about American freedom and whether he's fighting. He's always got what he thinks is best at heart, even if he's a goodie.
Yeah.
I lean a little bit. I like more chaotic neutral, but like most of his comic is very politically generated. You look at Fantastic Four, there's a
Mhm.
lot of politics in that, dealing with other countries and
Oh yeah.
how we bring our prejudices from what we may have heard into dealing now. And when you cross over into DC, you've got Superman, who most of what he fights communism and everything else, which is politics.
He's also literally an illegal alien.
He totally is on
What do you think
all
about
fronts.
it? When you think about it. So for those who actually use that term, look at immigration and stuff like that. Yeah, they wear Superman shirts. It's kind of like, oh, I guess you don't get it. Um,
Same with Wonder Woman.
yeah,
She's not here legally.
yeah, yeah. She's fighting for you.
Come
Another
on,
thing that's
right?
interesting, a trend that seems to have popped up over the last few weeks is it seems like everybody I've had on is a parent, and many things, as you know, change once you become a parent. But how has your comic book reading, but also view of and approach towards comic books changed since you became a mom to the awesome child known as Emma?
I want her to be strong and confident. I mean, her room is covered in Wonder Woman. I mean, you had those vinyls made for her.
Mhm.
She loves that one. I've got this gorgeous Wonder Woman poster. It looks like it was done in marker, which sounds weird, but it's gorgeous.
Nice.
And above her bed, I've got so I also enjoy WWE. And above, so we've got a Cape Cod. So her crib is in like this little nook, and so it goes like this. So on the flat wall that goes up over her headboard, I've got, they're not like the real ones, they're like the kid versions, but I've got the women's NXT belt. I've got the women's um and then both of the women's championship belts for both nights, Raw and SmackDown. And they hang above her bed because she can do anything she wants. And I want her to know that. Like, I put together a really cool Squirrel Girl collection for her
Yes.
because that little girl is freaking awesome and she hangs out with squirrels and uses the power of her heart to save the
Yeah.
world. Like, who doesn't love her? And I love the way they draw Squirrel Girl.
Mhm.
She's thick and I love it. She's like, she starts out as like a little girl and, she's got, the little girl pudginess. And I like that for the most part, artists have left her alone and let her be a little girl. I want to surround her with powerful women.
I love that so much. It's I've been the same way with Zoe. I I love that she's drawn towards them. It's like when we saw Black Panther, like she immediately gravitated towards Shuri, which I loved. And
Love
we're
that.
reading Kamala Khan, like Miss Marvel. She loves Squirrel Girl, who actually Squirrel Girl is one of my favorite characters. That's really cool. But I've tried to raise her as independent as possible, which has backfired in many ways because her sarcasm just melts me dearly. But she really is, and she sees a lot of these characters, and it's also led to a lot of conversations. Like why would somebody be treated such a way? Like the first series I read with her was Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, and
I was just going to bring that up. I
yes,
love her. I love her whole inner struggle. Like, she wants to be normal in the worst way, but she's pretty much a savant. So
mhm.
even if she didn't have the Inhumans powers, she would still be different because she's so smart. And I think that the pressure of both is alleviated by the dinosaur, because he's always telling her, like, hold on to your power, use your power, use it for good. There's nothing wrong with it. Be proud of it. Stop
It's like
being
a
so
therapy
ashamed. And
pet.
it takes a while for her to get over that hump, but when she does, it's such a glorious moment.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
I and I bring all those characters up because Marvel has found a way, and I know DC has some characters too, but they found a way to introduce, the female perspective, the strong women characters. But if you notice, a lot of the ones that they make strong and leave alone, they're all teenagers. And
I'm
it
glad that
wasn't
they leave
until
them
the last,
alone though, because they haven't always. Look at Supergirl.
yes.
She's a teenager.
Hmm. And I think we started talking about this stuff recently, and I think there's a Spider-Man cover where I'm like, what the fuck are they doing right now? Like, it's
I
this
was
teenage
very
character,
upset
and
with
it
that cover.
and it and it's like, why are you
I know what you're
sexualizing a
talking about.
teenager? And so I see it as a front where I would always be like, that makes no sense. But also as a parent, I'm like, this is the stuff I read with my daughter to show her like these independent women who aren't just objectified. They kick ass, they're
Like, oh,
independent.
it's just art. No, it's not. Like, it's
Right.
just art for you because you're, whatever it is you're doing with your art. But
But
I
what's your
think
take
that
on
most
that?
people forget that half, a lot, maybe half, it's got to be half by now. Half of the readers are women. Whether, you started reading it in secret, you're afraid you're going to get picked on. They get picked on, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or now when it's full blown, like, I don't want to see myself what my daughter could be, what her little friends could be shown in the manner that a lot of them are drawn, even
Well,
the adult women.
yeah, it's one thing, we have comics that for all time, the heavy metal, the Vampirella, that sort of stuff, that's always been that way. And
Have their place.
yeah, but then when you have like, I don't need to see Jean Grey sexualized on a cover when she's one of the most badass characters there is, like it's,
Storm, it makes me so
yeah.
sick when they sexualize Storm because she's just raw energy.
Hmm.
Like, I love that she's so gender fluid. Like, she goes from having long, luscious hair to rocking. Oh my gosh, the her mohawk.
Yeah.
The word was absolutely elusive. Girl, mohawk in the 90s when she was like, I'm out, you guys are crazy, and she leaves with Logan's old enemy there. And she leaves with her and has all of these like girl power, girl, what do they call them? Girl times, you know what I mean? Like these
Hmm.
very, very coded like bisexuality. Like, she's so gender fluid. She doesn't need to be sexual. She just is energy, and people are attracted to that. There's no need to show her half naked. Or there's a couple of times where she was like in the shower and she just had like soap suds. I'm like, come on, no one's gonna walk in on her in the shower because she would electrocute the shit out of you.
Right. It's almost like the art doesn't match the characters in a lot of ways. And I'm just noticing it more and more probably in the last 10 or 15 years where it's always been there, but now I look at a cover, I'm like, I don't want to read the issue because you've already ruined everything I know about this character. Everything's coming in it. And this cover has
Almost makes
absolutely
it kind of
nothing to do.
trashy, doesn't it? Like
Right.
the front of those like romance novels with like Fabio. But at least those are romantic. These are
Right.
just straight pornographic half the time. Like these poses, like, first of all, no one can bend like that and hold a weapon, first of all. And then you're talking about, I don't know.
I mean, so when
It's
we
just
talk about your readership, because I've had many comic conversations with you, and you're very, not just a reader, but you're very informed, you're very in tune, and you've developed very personal relationships with a lot of these characters. So, how would you describe? I know I talk Marvel mostly because I'm not a big DC fan, but I think it's across the board. How would you describe female representation and I guess almost inclusion, in the circle when it comes to comic books, at least during your time in readership?
DC, for the most part, has done well with Wonder Woman. The early 50s were real rough. Like, there was a couple of issues I remember reading where she's like, go bad and weird thing by the bad guy and you're gonna get out. Like, all these awkward situations you put her in. Like, okay, can she just go stop the bank robber? Like, why are we here in this? So they've always had questionable things with Wonder Woman. Depending on who's at the wheel, it's gotten much, much better in the past probably 10 years. She's been much stronger. A lot of the artists who have drawn her know how to draw like actual action poses in a woman. So they do real well. But DC, I think, has a lot of hidden gems too, because they've got Black Canary, who's always been on the back burner. I love Black Canary, by the way. I love Dinosaur. So they tried to do they tried to bring her back 6 or 7 years ago now. It's a very small run. It was really strong. The first, I don't know, maybe 18 to 20 episodes were really strong. And then there was a new writer, and all of a sudden she's in like a battle arena, and you don't know how the hell she got there. Like, she doesn't always switch hands well. And when she does, they get her powers confused and how she got them confused because There's 50 different ways she got her power and yada, yada, yada. They have a lot of misses because I feel like they mostly push Superman, Batman, and the terrible romance that is Harley Quinn.
Ugh.
Harley is such a unique perspective because she's chaotic neutral. Whatever helps Harley, what she's gonna do. And I like that. But then when she's by herself or when she's hanging out in like Birds of Prey and stuff like that, she's great. She's so great. Like the interesting ways she contributes, her little one-liner, she's totally like girl power. But then you get her in the same room as the Joker and she's abused and she takes it and likes it. And it's such a weird flip from what you were just showing me of this strong, crazy bitch who does whatever she wants to do. And she wants to do good most of the time. Because you got to remember, she wasn't always crazy. She was originally a psychiatrist. She wants to help people.
Right.
Her own messed up way, she does. But she can't help herself in certain situations. And I hate how they keep her there. That's like DC has a lot of misses on their female line, and then they're pushing like Supergirl, but her backstory is not that strong. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of pretty much anybody outside of Wonder Woman, and like I like the Birds of Prey books a lot. They get Poison Ivy involved, and she's great because she's also like, fuck all y'all. As long as the earth is green and my plants are happy, we're good. Just leave me my plants alone. And nobody can. How can you not? Just don't step on the flower and she'll be fine.
Earth Day shout out to Poison Ivy.
I know, right? The original hometown hero there. But
I teach.
Push their strong.
Oh yeah. Well, I teach freshmen, and one of the things I cover is like relationships and things like that. And so I always ask, what does everybody think about Joker and Harley? And they're like, yeah, love them. And I'm like, all right, so we're going to break down why this is a toxic relationship. And we're going to go over that. So I actually use those comics to show how terrible the representation of Harley is based on when she's alone and then when she's in his clutches, and how just terrible that relationship is as a whole. And every time I see the Halloween costumes of somebody going as Joker and Harley together, I'm like, why the hell are you doing this? Do you not realize what this actually means?
You don't need some crazy dude behind the bush.
So you ran down the women of DC. Now, what about the women of the Marvel spectrum?
I love Captain Marvel. I love her. And I was introduced to her through X-Men because her and Logan, they know each other. And her and Rogue have that huge history because Mystique pretty much brainwashed Rogue and pushed her and pushed her. She was a mother figure because her parents, she showed power and her parents were kind of like, oh, so she latched on to her as a mother figure. She was pretty much gaslighted and becoming evil. She fought Captain Marvel and took her powers and accidentally absorbed who she was for a while. So she was carrying around Carol Danvers, who would come out and pretty much steer Rogue's body every once in a while when she was in serious trouble. And Logan, like they had a couple adventures in Genosha, and Logan was like, Carol, but it was Rogue's body, but Carol was still alive in her. So that's how I got to know Captain Marvel and the wit and the incredible, I don't know, she just always gets up. She always keeps going. She always keeps pushing. Like, she doesn't give up ever.
Yeah.
And it's great. And you can see that she was always trying to get out and find a way out. And Rogue wanted to help her find a body. And that's where the whole binary thing starts off, which is a really cool story. But that's where I fell in love with Captain Marvel. So when I started following her. So pretty much a lot of my other loves have pretty much come from New Mutants and, Excalibur.
Yeah. It all started with the X-Men. And
yeah,
that's awesome.
A neat way.
I found, and I don't know if this is your perspective too, but I found that a lot of the stories that we have are very great for women, very strong, but the art doesn't seem to match the story is where a lot of it is for me. And I'm not sure your perspective on that, but I just as I'm reading with Zoe, that's my biggest takeaway is this art does not at all match this character.
No, unfortunately, a lot of the writers are more lofty and they're just trying to get to the end and the bad guy and fill everybody out and character development. And the artist is just trying to sell their art.
Mhm.
And for a long time, comics have been pandered to a very specific group of gentlemen. And I'm not saying, it is what it is. Men like to see sexy women, and I get it. I get it. It's always nice to have a little eye candy while you're reading, but I feel like it was taken way too far for way
Mhm.
too long. And now it just seems to almost be the standard. I don't know. I think that's why I like Peach so much. Everything she writes is youthful, not quite conservative, but all of the costumes actually allow the woman to fight and kick ass. Like,
You mean it's not skin tight?
or like poor Red Sonja running around in like what is it? Like
A
chain
sarong.
link loincloth? Like who the fuck is fighting crime in that? Nobody.
Yep.
I don't know. I hope she gets her tetanus shots frequently. Who knows how often that stuff rusts? Like that right there is a hazard.
Right.
That's not helping at all.
I love it.
That's why I like Peach. Like, have you seen her new Captain Marvel?
I have. I'm
Oh,
actually
with the short hair, and she doesn't have like it's out to like Saturn. Her costume is movable, malleable. It moves with her.
the
It's
interesting
not.
thing about Peach. I've seen her work draw on a lot of guys who typically gravitate towards that like sex appeal, and they're like, "Wow, this is a really beautiful cover. This is really well done." And I mean, I personally, I love her art. Our friend Jeanette showed me her art first. Actually, I had not seen it until Jeanette's like, "Look at this!" I'm like, "Holy shit, this is amazing!" But
And
her work, it's
Peach versus Scarlet Witch.
yeah. Oh, I just got that. That was
Oh,
the Women of Marvel, right? Is that the yeah, beautiful cover. But I mean, she does it where she makes the character, appear very beautiful, but in an elegant,
and the
powerful
song.
manner.
Yeah,
Like it's art that fits the character, like
I like that. It is elegant. Very good word. That's
yeah.
a great adjective for it. What it is, like, I don't know. It's
She draws the
what
female body as the female body exists, as opposed to this absurd, as you mentioned, like who's gonna fight crime in that shit.
now, and most of them have bodies like porn stars. First of all, if you're working out and you're as strong as most of these people, not giant boobs. You're just not. Like, that's not how working out works.
And if you
You know
do
what I
that,
mean? Like,
and if
and
you do
most of
that,
them look
tiny waist isn't
decent.
gonna hold you up. You'll have back issues.
No, no, no. All these ladies probably are going to end up getting like, I don't know, all sorts of spinal problems. Their backs have to be weak as hell. They're all going to the chiropractor weekly trying to build it up just so they can stand and hold their weapon.
You know what? That might be a new series in the making. The chiropractors of the superwomen. Um,
They're like, look what's revealed at the chiropractic office this week. Like,
but it,
Doc, you'll never believe the shit I had to do this week in high heels. My back is killing me. Please help.
I mean, it's necessary though to right all the wrongs is bullshit. But uh, yeah, it's been really interesting to me to see the art. So I love that Peach is coming out in the last year or so with all these great cover
Okay.
stories. It's been really awesome. And then as a counter approach, I mean, we have Scotty Young who's out there drawing them too as like kind of caricatures and as kids and stuff like that. And I know his art isn't for everybody, but it's nice to see that take on a variant as opposed to like, here's Jean Grey in lingerie today. Like that's not the comic
Yeah.
for me. Um, and we've had some great dialogue about that. I hope to actually, I want to kind of monitor this over the next year because there are a lot of strong storylines with some strong women in there that, we also have some strong characters coming to, the TV and the movie space. So I think it'd be kind of cool to monitor that and see how it's done and see if there is some change over the next year or so, because I know that there are more female writers now, which is incredible. We're seeing more female directors on these projects. Patty Jenkins, you know, she has the Wonder Woman universe there, stuff like that. And
I don't
so
care what anybody says. I love her. I
I,
like I know the second Wonder Woman wasn't as strong as the first one, but I liked it. It was playful, it was beautiful. It showed the torment of saving humanity or saving your love. Like it had all these inner issues coming out. Yeah, it was goofy. But I mean, you also hired an SNL star to play the villain. So it's supposed to be goofy. I liked that it was funny and wasn't so serious. There's always serious movies out there, and it was nice to have something that was a little lighthearted.
and do you know what got me was it wasn't the humor or anything like that. It was when she lost her autonomy in some ways and fell to the matters of the heart as opposed to just being the kick-ass woman she is. And I know that they probably had to do that, and you know, they set stuff up and everything like that. But that's just where it kind of lost me because I was like, oh, she's too much of a badass for this. But I get it.
Badasses have hearts, and that's what makes them a badass when they
Yeah.
follow their heart. So when things like that come up, how does somebody who possesses that much power and that much superhero-ness, I guess, you know what I mean, always does the right thing, always knows how to act? There's going to be times where their humanity hits them. And yes, I know Wonder Woman is technically a goddess, but you see that these bits of humanity come out.
Mhm.
And it's nice to see her not be so lofty and be like, oh, well, this is the right thing to do. She's like, it's the right thing to do. But then there's this. And now you have to choose. And it's not that like the first movie, every decision she made was easy.
Mhm.
Storming this, easy. Going across the battlefield, easy. I'm going to save all these lives, easy, easy. It was nice to see her struggle with something I feel like most people would struggle with, superhero or not. I mean, this was the one person who, you know, is her soulmate, essentially. And I think it needs to be a difficult decision, or else what about her would I want to emulate if that's not a difficult decision?
So full disclosure, I'm going to rewatch this movie from the lens of Kimberly Underland now because you just reframed it for me in a way that I wasn't viewing it. And so
Yeah.
I think that I want to give it a rewatch with a different angle. And so I appreciate that that take on it because I didn't consider a lot of that, to be quite honest. So I'm appreciative of that. So I'm definitely going to rewatch it this upcoming weekend. And Tim and I are going through all the MCU movies now, so I gotta save it for the
That's awesome.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like it mirrors a lot of women's lives in general. Career, kids. I love kids, but what about this for myself? This is for the better. You know what I mean? Like those internal turmoil and conflict that most women have to deal with. It was nice to see it on the screen.
And that most men like myself are clueless about. And so it's not
That she needs to save the world and fuck that guy and he'll be fine.
yeah. You know, I'm all about women empowerment. So I see that I'm like, no, that's not you, but she's still a human, or she still has feelings. She still has a heart, you know, and that sort of perspective is no, I'm totally going to rewatch this movie from a totally different lens.
She still did make the correct decision. She gave it all up. It was just really hard for her, and it was nice to see her struggle. I mean, she struggled and struggled and struggled, and she made it to the right destination, but the journey kind of broke her a little too.
Well,
So
that's a parallel for
her. It might reform her for the future. Like this broke me, but now maybe I can move on.
And that's a parallel for a lot of women too, though, you know, with everything they give up, you know, if they follow that, you know, become a mother and all that sort of stuff. And it's a very similar parallel. So that's, yeah, I like hearing this perspective. And to be honest, I hope that as more movies and shows come out that we could have more discussions about that, you know, the representation and the female component. And the reason why I brought a lot of this up is because I was going across a bunch of YouTube channels I follow, a bunch of the comic book, Instagram stuff. And so I follow like 200 on Instagram, 3 are women. On the YouTube channels, I think on the YouTube channels, you know, I subscribe to many. I have many who subscribe to me. I do interviews on them, we interact. and there's not even 10 women. And so I'm like, somebody's missing from the table here. And, nothing changes unless, those voices are there. And I know personally so many comic book fans that are women. And so I'm like, where are these voices here? I know that they don't not exist on social media, like, is nobody asking, that kind of thing. So I
They're
think that
not
perspective,
followed as much because their opinions aren't what most people want to hear.
but if you look at the majority of our comic book characters, they're women. If you really look at them, and a lot of them are in
Yeah.
leadership positions, and even our minor ones, that become major, but then many of them are also leaders. It's so wild to me that voice is so seldom heard still.
Yeah.
And I would love to see it more. So I kind of wanted to continue this conversation, multiple times as we get more projects out, as we get more comics out. And, as cons start to open up and things like that, and we start to see more representation or how things are represented, because I know Peach is going to be making the rounds, things like that. And I just want to see how much the game changes over the next couple of years. My one subscriber to this YouTube channel might appreciate that. So,
well, I'm on it, so I can't technically watch it if I'm already in it, right?
But I think, as we look at this stuff through the lens of parents of future leaders here, our two young women, I look at everything through the lens of that too. Like, how is my daughter going to see this, and is it going to impact her powerfully? And it's been really cool. The community, our little community, they are always, if there's like a women in power book or whatever, that ends up in my folder at the comic shop for Zoe, or people build boxes for her. Somebody from another state heard about her liking, Shuri and Spider-Gwen, and sent just a mystery box for her to open one day. Like, it's
really cute.
So it is cool. And I really want to see things really open up, for that generation. Because growing up with, Emma growing up with you and Jay's parents, and Zoe growing up with me, they're not going to not be exposed to the nerd stuff. So it'd be really cool if it could be stuff that they can gravitate towards and find a connection to, kind of like you did, like I have. So that female voice is very important, I think. And so watching that progress, or hopefully progress as we move forward, and it's interesting.
As long as you keep showing her powerful women and the decisions they have to make, and how they handle themselves, and how they have confidence, as long as you keep showing her that, at least that's my hope with Emma, that it'll just become ingrained, because that's not what I grew up with. When I grew up, it was like the era of the Disney princesses, Ariel and Sleeping Beauty and Belle, and these aren't all great role models. I mean, yikes.
Well,
most of them are just waiting for some man to make their lives better. So that was like, they're not going to grow up how I grew up, which is great. I mean, Princess Leia was pretty much my savior. She was like my first hero. She was so badass, awesome. And she was a rebel, but she was feminine. She didn't give up her femininity to be powerful. She was pretty much my everything until I found comics.
I love that.
The only strong woman around back then, like, can you name one other? Even the Linda, like that original Wonder Woman in the 70s with Linda, even that's, some of those episodes are kind of questionable, like, still being put down by the man.
There are a lot of societal tropes.
Real powerful women from the generation I grew up in. So it's really awesome to see them all. I mean, look at Sasha Banks right here. She's literally leading the division. She's amazing. She's powerful. She's really pretty. She's incredibly gymnastic. Like, she's an amazing athlete. And she's all over. It's cool. Like, Emma knows who Sasha Banks is. Her favorite move is the Bex floater. She asked me to Bex floater her. You know what I mean? So the nice thing is, for our girls, powerful women are everywhere. It makes me all warm and tingly inside. Like, the year she was born, I think she must have been 3 or 4 months old. I'll have to send you the picture. It was when they finally got rid of the Diva belt and had an 100% women's Royal Rumble. And it was the first one.
That's awesome.
It was amazing. I mean, she's really watching it, but it was so cool to have that with her.
Yeah.
Growing up, women in wrestling were usually like the bra and panty matches. Like, that's all they got. That sucks. Yeah. Now they've got, like, I mean, they headline WrestleMania now. I never thought I'd see the day where a woman would get the last match of WrestleMania. And some of those battles are freaking epic, man. Like, they're amazing. And their women's division is pretty much what's saving the WWE at this point in time, because the rest of their stories.
Wow. That's some pretty powerful.
I know this is comics. I'm sorry. I'm like kind of like crossing the streams. But
No, I think that's really cool though, because in a lot of ways there's a lot of crossing of these genres and things like that. And folks can stand to learn from one, and really kind of take all this into consideration, look at who audiences are looking at. Men and women are huge fans of the wrestling world, and they're watching this and they're still tuning in. So maybe you can attribute some of that to your comics. I mean, Mandalorian seemed to bring a lot of that stuff into it in this last season, and the reception was great for that. So
Sasha was in Mandalorian.
It was. That's why I mentioned that.
This close to skipping through all the episodes just to get to her first episode. And it's not like it would have mattered if I really like watched it out of order. It took so much restraint to be like, nope, watch them in order.
I love it.
And she was good. And the girl she was with, I don't know if you recognize that actress. She played Kara Thrace in Battlestar Galactica, which was like the #1 sci-fi movie. So that was actually a remake. The original Starbuck was a man. And I guess that actor had a huge problem that his character had been recasted as a woman. But she's such a great actor. She was so cool. I love her. And I love that they brought her into the Star Wars universe. Awesome. I love that actress.
Yeah, and I mean, cool. If you don't like being replaced with a woman, tough shit. It happens.
The thing. I've seen them both. She did a way better job. It was a stellar. She was a good actress. She has a wide range of motion. And you see her wheels turning in the show, even though like it was all scripted. She's a great actress. Another really strong woman. I've never seen her in like a submissive role. I think she only chooses strong roles, which is really cool.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah, she's pretty badass.
That's great for stuff like that's great stuff for our daughters to be seeing too, like right there, when they're a bit older to understand it. Now, this has been an amazing talk, and I don't want it to end with just this one conversation, so we should definitely set some future ones up.
I would love that. You can talk video games. I play video games.
Yeah, I'm all about all of it. I know it's a comic book YouTube channel. Yeah, and I'm all about, I think that voice is so cool to hear out there. So we'll plan our next one.
I would love that.
Very cool. And something I like to end each segment with, even though I don't like to ever end a segment, is giving a shout out to local businesses. They've really been hurting during this whole time, and it's just nice to really, show some love to local business, maybe generate some business. In the past few times I've done this, I've heard that there's been an uptick in business at some of them. So I'd like to see that for one that maybe is near to your heart.
So this is going to sound really strange, but there is like this little tailor right up in Webster. I am kind of short, but not short enough to fit petite pants. So Dan, I don't know if you're a clothing person, but women, they don't have like waist and inseam. It's just 10, 11, 12, like good luck. Hopefully you fit one of these sizes. And there's tall, regular, and petite. So I'm between regular and petite, like my height. I'll have to get like pants hemmed up because I'm walking on my jeans and stuff like that. There's this little place. He'll take in my pants. He'll even take them in to make me fit better. $7 a pair. He's amazing. It's right on the corner up in Webster off of the Baytown Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
For you. He's amazing, and they're really sweet. I mean, there's not many tailors who don't take you for a ride anymore. Like I've pretty much taken my entire wardrobe for him to fix.
Oh, nice.
Even still through all of this, I'm still working. I still needed my clothes to fit me.
Yeah.
And since I had I've lost 80 pounds, so I've actually had a lot of clothes repaired and like made smaller.
Yeah.
So he's so sweet. Bevsy's is great, but I go to Twin Tailors. They're right on Empire Boulevard. It's 1778. I had to look up the address. 1778 Empire Boulevard. Not only does he take your stuff in, but he'll dry clean your clothes for you. Like I just took Jay's suit in. We got married like 4 years ago. We just got around to taking his suit in. It looked like the day we bought it.
Nice.
$17, something like that. They did an amazing job. They're just wonderful people, and I put a lot of my business there. So if you have jeans that are a little too long, or your pants need to be taken in a little, or shirts lengthened or shortened, they're amazing. So yeah, Twin Tailor.
Love it.
After.
And I mean, to be honest, there's so many times where people post on like Facebook, "Hey, is anybody know a tailor?" So now I have one. I'd be like, "Hey."
Yeah, they're amazing, and he's so fast. He's like, "Yeah, I'll have this done for you tomorrow." I'm like,
super cool.
I need it next week. You take your time. He's like, "No, tomorrow." I'm like, okay.
That's super cool.
He's so sweet. I love going there. I took my mom there. She had to get some stuff fixed for my sister's wedding. He redid an entire pair of pants for her because they fit her a little wide in the hips and everything. So we took them in and shortened them.
Oh, nice.
Fucking ridiculous. Took the
That's
shit
badass.
out of him because the amount of work he puts in for $12.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. I
love
send
it.
everybody. So I work part-time in Kohl's because I have a clothing problem.
I love it.
So anybody who's like, "Oh, I love these pants, but you don't have them in petite," I'm like,
I mean, so my wife has the same issue. She's 4'11", and finding clothes, she hates to shop too. So I end up having to buy all her clothes. She tries them out. She's like, "This doesn't work," so I return that. All that sort of stuff. So now I have a tailor I can go to. So that's awesome.
I have to be a woman and buy clothes that fit. It's ridiculous.
My shout out this week is to C Restaurant in Brockport, and it is at 27 Main Street in Brockport. My reason for it is this whole past year has been extremely hard on their business. They serve pho and a lot of really good different food, and it's been really tough. And the Brockport location has only been there a couple years, and it's on the verge of closing. And so I would encourage everybody to get there if possible. I'll be having dinner from there a couple nights this week. Just to show some love. And the Brockport community, every local business owner has been sharing like, "Hey, go there, go there." So it's part of the community. So C Restaurant, 27 Main Street in Brockport. Hit it up if you get a chance. Kimberly, I love this. I love that we talk all throughout the week anyways. It's the highlight of my week, our little group chat that we all have going.
When I come through, I'm like, I must be like the feminist bitch in our group. I swear to God.
I absolutely love it.
Well, look what this dick just posted.
I love every second of it. It makes me smile, it makes me laugh, and it's the highlight of my week. And I would really look forward to doing one of these again. I think it'd be kind of cool to do one of Zoe and Emma maybe reading to each other one time, reading comics to each other or something too. The wheels are just spinning, but I think we'll do a few more of these in the future just to keep it going. I really appreciate your time.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me on. This has been fun.
And
absolutely do this again soon.
I'm going to rewatch Wonder Woman 84 through the Kimberly lens, and I will definitely let you know my thoughts.
Just go into it with, don't expect anything. Just I don't know. I like to like things. So that might also be it. Like I find things. I don't know. My personality. I like to like things.
I got you.
So I found a lot that I really liked, and I know it got bad reviews, but just look at it being like, this is what most women deal with. You follow your man, or you follow your dreams. Do you do what's right, or you do what your heart tells you is right? Like having your heart, career versus family, doing the right thing versus saving your man.
And I'm totally taking notes, and I'm going to consider all of this when I watch it this upcoming weekend. I will definitely report back.
It'll be a quiz. 10 questions. This will be a large portion of your grade. So.
Now the test anxiety kicks in. Kimberly, thank you so much for this. It was great. I look forward to
No problem at all.
You have a great night.
You too.